With me now, retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery, once again with me here on the Hill. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense Democracies. And Niall Gardner with us as well, director of the Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom at the Heritage Foundation. Niall, nice to see you, sir.
Great
Admiral,
to see you,
thanks for being with us. That was a 180. What just happened, seemingly in an afternoon?
Well, I mean, I was pretty surprised. I mean, I've been, for the last 3 months, the president's been saying, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to hold Vladimir Putin accountable. And there's always been some intervention, sometimes by Putin, sometimes by the president, that kicked the can on this. I think the president finally got tired of Putin's obstruction, of his attacks on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine, and of his pressing forward when President Trump felt he was offering President Putin a good out with concessions from President Zelensky in Ukraine and the opportunity to end a failed campaign in Ukraine.
So we have both of you up here tonight as you both testified about NATO before Congress in the recent weeks. There was that comment about what happens if NATO jets or Russian jets go into NATO. Is it okay if you see them shot down? And the president said yes. Do you think Vladimir Putin now tests Donald Trump and NATO on that front?
I don't think so, because the president, was clear here, and we were being tested for the last week by Russia. Drones the 19 drones into Poland, potentially the drones into Romania. Hard to say on those, but 100% this 12-minute penetration into Estonia. Now the planes very carefully went along, north-south, went along the border and didn't make an aggressive run at Tallinn, the capital. But still, this was all, demonstrations by Putin, and now Trump has met the challenge. He said, we will do something. Now, look, there's a big difference between we will do something and we do something.
Right, of course.
But I think this was appropriate. I was the UCOM J5 years ago, the head of plans and policy, and this was our plan. If Russia does these kind of penetrations, you'd warn them, and then if they continued in an offensive, hostile way, you'd shoot them down.
What do you expect next here?
Well, I think, firstly, this is peace through strength being projected by the United States, which is the right message to send to Vladimir Putin. Donald Trump tried to negotiate in good faith with Putin. Putin, of course, has not negotiated in good faith at all. In fact, he's completely untrustworthy. And I think it's been sent a very clear message by the United States, the world superpower, that the Russians will be held to account for whatever they do. And if they decide to send fighter jets into NATO airspace, they will be shot down. So that's the that's the right message to send, actually, because we cannot allow the Russians to get away with any kind of threats and intimidation. Actually, if they're foolish enough to take on the NATO alliance, they will face the consequences.
Trump calls Jay Powell too late. Was he too late here when it comes to Putin?
In my view, Donald Trump has made every effort actually to bring about peace in Ukraine. And the Russians have refused to really to act in good faith in any fashion at all. And I think that Donald Trump has concluded, of course, that Vladimir Putin is completely and thoroughly untrustworthy. And so the message being sent right now, very clearly to Moscow, is that they will be held to account. And the United States, of course, is looking to our European allies to fully support and stand with the people of Ukraine who've been fighting very bravely to end their purchases of Russian oil and to stand with the United States, actually, in terms of the economic pressure being applied against Russia, and also, of course, support for Ukraine as well.
He called Vladimir Putin essentially a paper tiger. So I wonder, Admiral, as all of this just sort of unfolds and Putin's watching all this in Russia, what comes next?
Well, look, Russia has been practicing cognitive warfare, influence operations against us for years. And I think this was a good pushback by Trump. He knows this hurts. Calling Putin a paper tiger is absolutely the most kind of vicious thing he could do. I think it was perfect. He sent that message that, look, I'm tired of you. I think now is right that, we gave him more than enough time to do this. And the real key here is Europe now. They've got to buy the U.S. weapon systems and that's really what weapon systems are available, buy the U.S. weapon systems that Ukraine needs to both defend itself and impose cost on Moscow. And I think we have the defense industrial base to do it. They have the money. President Trump has insisted they have that money, and Ukraine will be the beneficiary.
Show me the scene, if we can, over at the UN today, because this is how it started. It was the president and the first lady walking up the escalator there, something they've probably done, I don't know, tens of thousands of times in their life, and then, whoa, it stopped. That's the president and the first lady. Here was the White House. They said if someone at the Caroline Leavitt at the UN intentionally stopped the escalator as the president and first lady were stepping on, they need to be fired. You think someone do you think they were purposely trying to send the president there a message?
I mean, you can't rule out that possibility, but at the same time, of course, the UN is hugely inefficient, mismanaged, corrupt. I think, broken escalator is a symbol of a broken down United Nations, frankly. It receives far too much money from the United States, a lot of it which is wasted. And I do think the UN should be fully held to account. Whatever happened in that incident, actually, the UN should not be allowed to get away with this. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Niall, Admiral, they were testifying up on the Hill recently with us tonight here on the Hill. Appreciate you both. Thanks for coming on.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Of course.